If you're a man over 40 and still hammering these exercises, you might be doing more harm than good. So in this video, I'm going to show you the 5 worst exercises for men over 40 and what you should be doing instead. These are the exercises that destroy your joints. So if you want to stay strong, active, and injury-free, you'll want to avoid them like the plague. Now, I'll be honest, this one's going to ruffle a few feathers and probably set the comment section on fire. But before the gym bros start foaming at the mouth, let's get one thing straight. There's no such thing as a universally bad exercise. It's all about context. What's bad for a 45-year-old desk-bound dad might be brilliant for a 25-year-old athlete. But if you're over 40, which 75% of the guys I work with are, then you've got a few decades of wear and tear behind you. Recovery's slower, time's tighter, and you've probably got a dodgy knee or a shoulder that likes to remind you you're not 21 anymore. But the goal isn't to stop training hard. It's to stop you getting injured, because nothing kills consistency like a few weeks being forced to sit on the sofa. So if you're ready to get into it, full screen the video and let's lock in. Number 1 is cardio, and specifically long distance running. Look, you've probably been told that running is the holy grail for fat loss, but there's actually plenty of evidence that shows long distance running is doing more harm than good for men after they hit 40. Every stride sends impact forces up through your ankles, knees, hips, and spine, thousands of times over and over again. Because when you break it down, running is literally just a series of tiny jumps over and over again. And if you're carrying a little bit of extra timber or you sit at your desk all day, your joints are already under pressure. When you add miles of pounding the pavement, it turns you into a ticking time bomb. Then there's the hormonal side. Long bouts of cardio has been proven to ramp up your cortisol, your main stress hormone, which tanks your testosterone and chews through muscle mass that you've worked so hard to build. Dude, your testosterone is already in decline. Don't help it get there faster. And let's be real, let's be practical. Just look at most long distance runners over 40. I'm not knocking them. In fact, I actually respect them for the hard work they put in. They found their passion and that's awesome. But do you want to look like that? I doubt it. You'll look lean, but in that skinny fat sort of way, not the strong athletic look I expect you're going for. And listen, if you love cardio, cool. Swap the 10Ks for zone 2 training, brisk walking, incline treadmill, intervals on the rower, getting out on your bike, or swimming. That's low impact, easier to recover from, and still absolutely brilliant for your heart health. But endless long distance running, it's just accelerated aging disguised as fitness. But if you thought that one was bad, wait till you hear number 2. Because next up, we have the behind the neck pull downs. Now, don't get me wrong, these look badass in the movies, but they're not practical in real life, particularly after you turn 40. In fact, if you've ever seen someone doing them in your gym, you've probably also seen them robbing their neck after, right? This movement forces your shoulders into an unnatural position, external rotation combined with abduction, basically a position that your joints hate. It compresses your rotator cuff, it strains your neck, and for most people, it's not even hitting the muscles that you think it is. There's this myth that it targets the upper back. Rubbish. All it does is load your spine in a way that makes your physio a lot of money. So if you want the strong shoulders and lats, go with the classic lat pull down. You can mix up your grip, or if you've got the strength, you can do pull-ups instead. Both of these give you all the strength and size benefits without destroying your shoulder joints in the process. Number 3 is the classic sit-up, because no matter how many of them you do, you'll never see your abs unless you get under 15% body fat. And most men already have tight hip flexors from years of sitting, and sit-ups hammer those muscles even more. So instead of working your abs, you end up yanking on your lower back. That's why your spine feels like it's been through the blender after a few sets. And if you're doing hundreds or even thousands of them thinking it will burn belly fat, I've got bad news for you. You can't spot reduce fat. All you're doing is straining your back while your gut stays exactly where it is. Not only will they increase your chances of hurting yourself, but they hardly burn any calories because they only target relatively small muscles. So if you actually want a strong core that supports your posture and your lifts, use the ab wheel, do leg raises, or focus on incorporating more compound lifts into your training, which I'll put on the screen right now. These don't just work the biggest muscles in your body, but they require core activation and stability, which forces your abs to grow back thicker and stronger. And then number 4 is plyometrics, because nothing makes me wince more in the gym than seeing a 50-year-old dude being forced to do burpees and box jumps by his PT. Now, don't get me wrong, In your 20s, plyometrics are great. You've got springy joints, elastic tendons, and recovery that feels like a superpower. But after 40, that explosive land and load impact is a nightmare for your knees, your ankles, and Achilles tendons that have been through a few rounds. I've seen way too many blokes in their mid-40s land arse over elbow and seriously hurt themselves doing this stuff. And for what? To prove to your mates that you can still jump on a box? Listen, if you want power, do it safely. Use sled pushes, kettlebell swings, or controlled tempo work that builds strength without the joint trauma. Because you don't need to prove your vertical jump. You need to still have knees when you're 60. And finally, number 5, the standing overhead barbell press. And I've been very specific with the wording there because I love a good shoulder exercise. But this one specifically, I think it's more of a trap for guys over 40. Because if you've got limited shoulder mobility, and let's face it, you probably do, forcing a heavy barbell overhead means you'll start compensating through your lower back or your neck. Rather than hitting your delts, you're just cranking your spine or pinching your rotator cuff. I've done this myself. And because it's a standing press, you've also got to brace your core like mad and stop yourself tipping backwards, which just adds even more compression to the lower back. I've even seen guys do themselves a hernia when they push these too hard. So instead, swap it for a seated dumbbell press, a machine shoulder press, lateral dumbbell raises, or even a landmine press. You'll still get those thick, strong, bolder shoulders you want, but without feeling like you've been hit by a bus the next morning. The standing overhead barbell press is brilliant in theory, but terrible in practice once you're the wrong side of 40. I'm certainly not saying that you've got to train like you're made of glass after 40. Quite the opposite, in fact. I'm 38 and I can't wait to try and get stronger when I turn 40. You can still lift heavy, you can still push hard, and honestly, if you have the right plan, you can easily still look better than most 25-year-olds. You've just got to be a little bit smarter about it. But if you've been trying to do this all alone and you're tired of guessing or you've hit a plateau, I've built a 180-day blueprint that's designed specifically for guys like you to make you unrecognizable. I'll handle your workouts, your nutrition, and hold you accountable at every step. So if you're ready to take your training to the next level, there's a link in the description under the video where you can find out all the details about my coaching program. Peace.